John's going to demonstrate a Eustress volume deadlift workout, or a couple of minutes of one, just show you what some of that pacing looks like and what the workout looks like. You'll notice here that John is not watching a clock. He's not following any particular rep scheme or pacing. He's going about as fast as he can manage pulling this weight while he's consciously controlling his exertion and his breathing. So he's not gasping for air. He's not in a distressed state. He's not in a lot of pain. He's doing as much as he can while making it feel easy. And he's constantly working to push that limit and see how much he can do while making it feel easy. This is a major difference between Eustress training and normal gym training, in that he's not doing something under a fixed limit or a fixed numerical protocol, like as heavy of a weight as he can lift for 5 reps or 10 reps or whatever. He's lifting a weight at a pace that he can sustain for as long as he has to. And his perspective is to minimize how much it costs him to do that. You could think of it as the same frame of mind that a manual laborer would have. If you're carrying bricks around all day, if you're doing farm work, something like that, you're not going to try to blow yourself up in 10 or 15 minutes when you have to do this all day. And that's the kind of adaptation we're looking for here, the kind of perspective that we're trying to build into this kind of training. In selection, you can think of it as most of the work you're going to be doing that isn't specifically performance oriented. Like in Buds or Swick, you're running to chow, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, sometimes from one side of the base or the island to the other side, 6 miles a day in total. And your only reason for doing that is to get there, eat food, and come back. So it doesn't matter how fast you go, how much you hurt yourself. Your goal is to do those runs with as little cost to yourself as possible. It's commuting. It's not a performance thing where you're trying to set the world record for fastest run to breakfast. And a lot of your other work in selection is going to be like that. It's not designed, or you shouldn't look at it as, how hard can I make this feel? How much can I blow myself up while I do this? There are going to be performance-oriented events. You're going to do screen tests and timed runs and timed swims and all kinds of stuff like that, where you do need to push yourself as hard as you can and max out. But you need to be able to sustain a high work rate while making it feel as easy as you can and making it take as little from you and from your recovery capacity as possible. The primary variable that we're looking at here, the variables, are predictability and control. So in a distressed state, which is the opposite of eustress training, you lose predictability and control to some extent, and you make it feel threatening, meaning that you don't know how long this might go on and you don't know if you can handle it if it continues. With eustress training, you're bringing up your perception of predictability and control so that you know that no matter how long this goes on, you're going to be able to handle it and you have what it takes. The physiological stress response that's associated with that activity is going to change depending on your perceptions of predictability and control. In a distressed state, you're looking heavily at an adrenaline-based response. Over time, you're going to have an increased cortisol response, and especially if there's a lot of novelty, a lot of lack of predictability, you're going to have an overshoot. Your body's going to produce more stress hormone or a stronger stress response than you physiologically need because it's uncertain of what's going to happen and it's trying to keep you alive. So it's better to dump a lot of adrenaline and cortisol, overactivate you, overstress you, and ensure that you survive survive than to underestimate and not give you enough activation to make it out of this threatening scenario. Where in a eustress state, you're meeting what's called the mere physiological demand. Your body's going to give you just enough of a stress response to do the physical part of this workload without the emotional or mental stress response that goes with it. You could again think back to farmers throwing hay bales, manual laborers, people like that. Their stress state is nothing at all like a CrossFitter blowing himself up or someone doing the hardest run they've ever done. They're activating just as much of a stress response as they need and no more. And as soon as that event is over, as soon as John drops the bar, as soon as the farmer's done throwing hay bales, that stress response is gone and they're back to baseline. The recovery is much, much faster. A huge part of that is self-regulation and self-awareness. So you can see as John was pulling that weight, he was controlling his breathing, he was staying relaxed, and he wasn't allowing himself to spin up in his head. So keep in mind that whatever happens in your brain is going to happen in your bloodstream. Your thoughts create feelings, and feelings drive stress responses. So a huge part of controlling how much work you can do and make it feel easy is in controlling your thoughts, controlling the stories you tell yourself about what you're doing and about what you're capable of, and maintaining that low threshold arousal response. That's going to give you, instead of the distress response of an adrenaline dump, a eustress response, also known as a challenge response, that is primarily norepinephrine rather than epinephrine or noradrenaline. And it's going to be at a much lower level, just sufficient to meet the physiological demand and not enough to just burn you out or blow you up.